Yo, 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 what's happening? Simon here. I am just at one of my BRRs, in other words, properties I own that's been funded through my rent-to-rent portfolio in true Rent-to-Rent 2.0 style. And you know what? I thought I would do a video that's a little bit out there because a lot of you and a lot of people out there, they just want to focus on the positives of rent-to-rent, all right? Just to sell you courses and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, there are some negatives, there are some challenges. And on this video, I just want to speak frankly and just tell you what they are so you can look out for them, how I handle them in my business and how hopefully you can handle them too, so that you could get all the positives from rent-to-rent and minimize the negatives. If that sounds good, you're in the right place. I'm Simon, rent-to-rent specialist, and over the past years, I've built a 7-figure rent-to-rent business, and now I help people like you do the same to transform your life, okay? Now, listen, there are a few key negatives I want to discuss. One of the biggest pitfalls of rent-to-rent is that the cash flow is not forever, all right? That's right. If you sign a deal today, there is a time horizon on that deal. Let's say, for example, it's a 3-year deal. At the end of the 3 years, the landlord wants to exit. You would lose that cash flow unless you purchased it. Another example is, let's say you've done a rent-to-rent deal and for whatever reason it's not working and you have to exit and you're used to that cash flow, then of course the cash flow stops. The way I overcome that is through reinvesting that cash flow into properties I do own rather than just blowing it on stupid trips to Dubai and just moving mad. So this is what I say to my mentees, like, why does this phone keep ringing? Anyway, it's on mute now. So you got to think to yourself, if you want cash flow today and you want it tomorrow, you got to reinvest that money into assets that you own. The second big pitfall with rent-to-rent, whether you like it or not, is you gotta go out there and do stuff. It is an active property strategy. You are building a property business and therefore you got to do stuff, particularly at the beginning. Now, some people, and some of you, you're lazy. You're like, oh, I don't really want to do anything. I want to have passive income. But you have to understand it takes time to build passive income. So we have a 3-step process in Rent-to-Rent 2.0. Step 1 is to control property, which is very active. Step 2 is to cash flow it, which continues to be active, but less so. It takes less time than it does to go out there and source and close and refurb deals. And lastly, we then systemize it, and that is the part it becomes passive. So over the years, what I did was I then built team, I then built processes, I then put software in place to completely free up my time. But you got to understand, at the beginning, rent-to-rent is going to be active. And last but not least, another pitfall of rent-to-rent, whether you like it or not, is that managing property is where the biggest, most lucrative cash flow comes from. So if you're not willing to do that, rent-to-rent's probably not for you. Now, for me, when I started 5-6 years ago, from the time of recording this video, I realized that I needed to make a change. And I was happy to put the graft in. I was happy to put the long days in. In fact, I was hungry to do so, to not only be greedy with the cash flow, but to learn the trade. Because if you don't learn your trade, how can you then ever process it and outsource it to a team? But you've got to be willing to put the work in, and there's going to be times where it is tough. You are going to have bad tenants. You are going to have bad guests. You are going to have property maintenance issues. But what I can guarantee you is that if you know what you're doing, if you put the systems in, if you choose the right properties and the right landlords, it's going to be so worth it. So I hope you found this video useful. Yeah, I'm a real one, all right? I'm not just going to sugarcoat this and tell you it's all great. There's time when it is tough, but if you get this right, it can change your life. And as I sit here in a property that I do own, that was funded exclusively from properties I don't own, I just control, I can testify to that. If that sounds good, you're on the right channel, man. I've got hundreds. I think I've got over 600 videos on this channel right now. We are the biggest community of rent to rent. We are the biggest access of free resources. And some of you might even want more help. So check out the links below so you can see how that looks too. Peace.
Yes, it's that time again. You've asked, so I've responded. We are going to be doing the Rent to Rent Super Conference again in 2025, and tickets are now available. All right? If you missed last year, it was unreal. So you need to make sure this year you're with us.